Nigel Griffith, Griff Services Power Washing. Thought I'll shoot this quick video of the repair of our most popular used gun, the ST2605. The gun is about 30 to 45 bucks. The repair kit is in the range of $10 to $20. Part number 202-300-490. In addition to the tools recommended for the repair, I suggest you have a quality O-ring pick and a flashlight. We had to utilize the O-ring pick in order to remove the backing ring and O-ring D from inside the housing because the tool eye was not attaching itself to these items to remove it from the housing, and you would need the flashlight to ensure everything's going smoothly inside there, that everything's seated and everything's removed. So what I'll do is edit the progress of the assembly of the gun and make an entire video. First step is to remove the screws located around the perimeter of the gun. Okay, we have the screws removed. And second step is to remove this portion of the valve with the adjustable wrench. We have the valve removed. The third step will be to take the bird beak plier and remove this item here, which is B. We're going to do that. Okay, we had step 3 completed, which was removing this part B with the bird beak. I had a little bit of trouble because bird beak is not slim enough, wasn't slim enough to really get down in there easily. So it took some time. So you want to make sure you have a nice slim bird beak pliers. We got that out, and this part also came out with it, so that's part C. And we're moving on to the next step, which would be connecting this tool together, which consists of part E and F, and to screw it into the housing here. So we have tool F and E from the spare kit, and you're supposed to place this into this housing here. Follow the directions, after which we would screw that into the housing where the valve came off, which is this portion. Okay, we have this screwed in there. That's F and E into the housing. The next step is to take tool H and the EF combination with G. So H is this item. We have it here, it's a bolt. And G is a cap for it. There's a cap for it. And put that on there and then screw it into here. Okay, for my application, since this fell out, I didn't have to do this step with applying this bolt and this cap to screw into here. I just realized that this would normally, there's threads in there, it would screw into this portion here, and then you'll be able to retract this from inside the housing. But as I mentioned, in my earlier step in pulling this out, or when I took this valve out, this came out. I guess usually that shouldn't happen, but this gun was leaking terribly. And we opened the valve at one time and some of the parts fell out. Maybe it wasn't reassembled correctly, but nevertheless, you get the gist of it. This portion would screw into here to retrieve this part here, which is C, out of the housing, but mine fell out. So let's move on to the next step. The next step is to retrieve this tool here, which is I, to retrieve the O-ring and the backing ring, which are these products here, D, from inside the housing. Now be aware that you have to use the side with the single dot. So retrieve the product, There's a single dot here and there's a one with two dots there. And that should be retrieving the O-rings inside this housing. So I'm going to take this off. We're going to do that. Okay, believe it or not, the tool didn't work. I snapped it in the position. There's this little ledge here that's supposed to go into the O-ring and the backup ring and snap onto it and help pull it out. Didn't work. I had to go get my trusty O-ring pick, flashlight, and I was able to work inside of there and pick out the O-ring and the backup ring. On to the next step. Okay, so you take the insertion tool. Once again, remember to use the correct side, the one with the two dots. This side has one dot. Use the one with the two dots. You put it in the correct order, which will be the O-ring and then the backing ring, and then you insert that into there. Make sure it seats properly. Take a flashlight and look down in there to make sure it seats properly. These are the old ones. As you can see, there might be a slight difference in size. We're going to do that procedure and then move on to the next step. This is the step where you screw C onto H, but while H is true, E and F. So this is E and F, and this is the H. You want to screw this onto that and then insert it in here. But I just want to identify the problem we had on ours. If you notice, there's this ring around here, and this is why on the old gun it fell out before we could utilize the tool to remove the old one. There was no clip around the body of this. And that's why when you're using this gun, when you disassemble it to see what was the issue with leakage, this probably fell out, and while the gun went back in operation, it would seem to spray fine, but believe it or not, it wasn't drawing any detergent from the injector. I think I have a video of that somewhere. So right now we're going to insert the new one onto that, then screw this housing in there and tighten up with the cap for the screw here. It goes on here, it's a cap there. The cap there fits onto there, screws in here. And then there's a procedure for removal. You have to follow the sequence. We have the entire assembly screwed into the housing. You're going to take the cap and unscrew the bolt before we unscrew EH out of the housing. So this has to go on here and unscrew this bolt, then remove this. Next step is to insert this part, which is B, into the housing. Now the direction does not have any particular end to put in first, but when I remove the old one here, I noticed that there was, let me see if I can get it up, there was a slight little concave section to it. As you can see, that section is flat, and this section is concave, and I believe that the concave section was facing outwards this way, so it can make contact with the ball inside the valve there. So I'm going to insert that, and then the last step would be to screw the valve on. About to put the new valve in place. Here's the old one. That's the new one. Make sure all the O-rings is in good condition. There's no cuts. This is a backing ring, so there's a split right here. No need to be alarmed. And we're going to screw that in there. Final step is to put the housing back on the valve body, entire gun body, and retighten with your Phillips head, and it should be complete. Next thing you have to do is just test the gun, make sure it doesn't leak, and also to ensure that it draws detergent through your downstream injector. After you master the procedures, you would find that I'm sure I could do this in about quarter the time. Nigel Griffith, Griff Services, pressure washing.